Dear students, welcome to the course HS1317 Introduction to Metaphysics of Sanskrit Language. So, in the previous lectures we have gone through Unit 1 and in that we have completed these 8 points or topics. Today we are going to begin the 9th one and we will discuss 10th and the sub topics under the 10th topic, that is India at the time of Rājaśekhara. After that there are few notable points which are going to be covered in the course. So, we are going to deal with them. So, this is the chart, you can see what is the understanding as per Rājaśekhara. Why I am mentioning this? The first question, why I am telling you, what is the purpose? Why we should understand this chart or this diagram or this type of classification which is available to us? Because Rājaśekhara is not so much ancient that we cannot date him back first. This is the first cause, this is the first reason. Because in this current scenario, or you can say contemporary times, what has become a fashion, that is questioning the authority of the text with reference of its dates. If we do not have exact date of some kind of text, we consider it as a kind of imagination or as a kind of understanding which is not based on scientific approaches. That is why with the reference of Rājaśekhara, we are having these positive evidences, because Rājaśekhara is very well known to us, we can date him back, he has mentioned everything about his life, his works and his native birthplace, etc. So many informations are already with us, and when he is writing his own composition that is named or titled as Kāvyamīmāmsā, he is mentioning a lot of the things which are already available from the Shastras, or you can say from the Indian intellectual tradition. So, we can have a proper understanding about the classification of the Shastra when we read his own composition. What he lays down is a kind of very relevant, very contemporary evidence for us, which can't be denied in the current studies, or you can say current based approaches or the ways of understanding as something as a scientific in our day to day behavior, or you can say in the British or you can say British followed, or we can much more clearly say that imported education system what we are practicing right now. So, this chart is going to depict us what is the possible classification of the Shastra which he lays down, and you can see first word, this is Vāṅgamaya. What he uses the word in his own composition to describe the classification or the corpus of knowledge available to us, he uses the word Vāṅgamaya. And if you split this word Vāṅgamaya, it will be like Vāṅ and Maya. So, Vāṅ means Vādi, speech. Maya means full of something. Just like when we say that Bhakti Maya, what does it mean? That the atmosphere is full of bhakti, something which has become part and parcel of that kind of structure or that kind of atmosphere. So, we use the word Maya. When we understand this term Vāṅgamaya, it is signifying like everything which is available to us right now in the form of knowledge in any of the streams, that is nothing but Vāṅga, that means Vāk tattva, speech, nothing else, because whatever stream we are pursuing, we cannot complete our day to day behavior without using Vāk, without using speech. Whatever we are understanding in different dimensions, that is in turn speech only, that is in turn Vāk only, and Vāk does not only necessarily involve the written version. That is why when you must be very familiar with the that kind of event, calculus structure, benzene ring structure, you can recall when you have studied in the sciences benzene ring structure. What was the base or what was the evidence for the discovery of that benzene ring? How it came to? the conceptual understanding of that person. It was just dreamt by him. He was so much condensed and contemplating continuously in order to get the answer how that phenomena is happening when he contemplated that ring structure. So, that is why I said whatever knowledge we have, that is inside of us, it is coming from within. It is not like we are getting something from the outside. Outside resources are the created resources. That is why script is already secondary version of the language. Script is not the dominating property or the dominant version of the bhasha. So, in turn whatever we understand, whatever we know, that is just Vāṅga. Vāṅgamaya, it's, so we can classify complete Vāṅgamaya in two possible categories as per the understanding of Rājaśekhara. He says we can classify Vāṅgamaya in one category as a Shastra, second as Kāvya. Shastra can again be classified into two, that is Apārushe, then Pārushe. We have already gone through them. What is Apārushe? That is not dependent on any particular person, place, time or authority. That is Apārushe, non-contingent. Then Pārushe is contingent, that means created by some person, it is available with the reference of some particular time, kind of a time and a space. So, this is Pārushe, contingent. In Apārushe again we can keep Agam, Nigam, Upa-vedas and Vedāṅgas, 4. We have already discussed all of them, so I am not going to repeat them. What are Agamas, what are Nigamas, then what are Upa-vedas, then Vedāṅgas. We have already understood that. Here something is new, something is additional, and what is additional? That is +1. You can see there is +1 in these three categories. Because in Nigam Shastra also Rājaśekhara opines that we can keep one more Veda as a 5th Veda. In the same way in Upa-vedas he suggests to keep one more Upa-veda, and in the same way he mentions that we can accept one more Vedāṅga. And what are they? We are going to discuss in the next slide. Then in Pārushe category we have Itihāsa, that means the corpus which is related with a smaller comparatively smaller period of time, that is Itihāsa, like Ramayana and Mahabharata. Then Puran, a composition which deals with the much longer Itihāsa, that is Purana. Much longer means much more than the one cycle of 4 yugas. That means it can deal with the events which have occurred in Manvantaras, and I will explain what is Manvantar when I will explain the concept of time and space in Indian understanding. Then next is Ānvīkṣakī, then Mimāmsā and Smriti. We have already understood Mimāmsā and Smriti. What is Ānvīkṣakī? We have to understand. I will explain. In the second part, that is Kāvya, he accepts 6 possible methods, or you can say 6 possible fundamental grounds accordingly which we can classify. So, first is the ground of style of writing, how the text is being written, what is the style. So, as per the style of writing, we can again classify as Gadya, Padya and mixed. Gadya is prose, Padya is poetry, mixed is, that means both Gadya and Padya both together. Second is mode of perception, how we perceive something, how we perceive the knowledge. So, in that case Dṛśya and Śravya. Dṛśya means visual and Śravya is audible. Whatever we can perceive by just seeing, that is Dṛśya. And when we are only hearing something, some kind of a story, that is Śravya. Then on the basis of language, we can again classify as Sanskrit, Prakrit and Apabhransh. So, Sanskrit is the purified one, Prakrit is the first deviation of Sanskrit, And then after Prakrit we have one more, that is Pali, and Pali is nothing, it is the, if you literally go with the meaning of the word Pali, it shows Palli, it is derived from the word Palli, and Palli means marketplace, bazaar. So, whatever kind of mode of communication or method of expression was used within a market, that was understood as Pali, and all the Buddhist literature is available to us in the language Pali. So, we from the Sanskrit Prakrit and Pali, and next is, or you can say last or the most recent one is Apabhransh, that means all the Indian languages right now we are having. They are the second deviation of from the Sanskrit. So, on the basis of language also we can classify or the literature available or the Vangamaya available. Next is plot based, according to the plot. First is Pauranic, based on Puranas, Kalpanik is imaginative, then Kala Ashrit, again the 64 allied sciences, they are Kalas. So, anything which is coming, or you can say from which is based on Kalas, 64 allied sciences, that is Kala Ashrit. Then Shastra Ashrit, again Shastra can be Parushe, Aparushe, from where you are picking up the narrative or the base material that, or the source material, that will be deciding according to the plot. Then structure based, how we are composing that kind of particular composition or text. Here it is very important, because right now what we are following, what methodology we are following. Suppose you are a student of some branch of engineering and you are writing your thesis. So, in our institute what we have a particular kind of format of writing the thesis, right, and each and every student of, irrespective of which branch you are following, you have to follow that particular format only, right. This is the way right now we are pursuing the things. But in Indian understanding, in Indian methodology, in Indian practice, this was not the method, because I can compose my thesis according to the subject matter. Like it can be a Mahakavya, it can be a Natak, it can be Akhyayika, Katha and Kathanak, and we are not bound to follow the same kind of format to present or to create in all the corpus. That means a kind of you can say monopoly, or you can say universalism of the text was not restricted, and that is why we have so much of diversity. We accept all the possible formats of compositions. It is not necessary that first composition should begin with this kind of acknowledgement and preface and that one. But now what is happening? We have to publish our material with a single kind of format in which the book must contain the first page like this, the second page like this, third page like this, and at the end this should be compulsorily present. So, we are restricted. We cannot take liberty in creating our own composition. We have to follow the norms of the publishers, sponsors, etc., etc. So many of the levels of grading and so many of the constraints. There is no liberty in creation. That is why Indian knowledge system and tradition is very rich, because diversity is liberty. Here diversity is liberty, and we can create any type of structure of the composition as per our own desire and the requirement of the subject matter. Last one is dialogue based, where according to a dialogue we can classify the subject material, like Vedarbhi, Gaudi, Panchali, Lati. These are the dialogues, versions of the dialogues. Now let me take you one by one what are the new points here in the chart. First thing, in Kāvyamīmāmsā of Rājaśekhara, he accepts Nāṭya as fifth Veda. So, the first plus one in the previous slide, the first plus one is of considering Nāṭya as the fifth Veda. Apart from the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharva, we should have one more Veda, that is Nāṭya Veda. This is the opinion of Rājaśekhara. Next is Itihāsa as the Upa-veda, fifth Upa-veda. Itihāsa should be considered as fifth Upa-veda. This is the opinion of Rājaśekhara. Now, just tell me what is the purpose of keeping Itihāsa as Upa-veda. Why he is mentioning so? Why Rājaśekhara is suggesting us to keep Itihāsa as an Upa-veda? While Itihāsa belong to Pāruṣeya and Upa-vedas belong to Apauruṣeya, what can be the supposed possible answer for that? क्या हो सकता है कारण? क्यों ऐसा कह रहे हैं? Why he is mentioning that we should keep Itihāsa under Apauruṣeyic structure? Keep this question in your mind. I will answer. I will ask you first and then answer in the next lectures when we will discuss the concept of time and space. What is the structure of time? Because I told you previously also that in Indian understanding, time and reality both are cyclic in nature. समय यानी काल और सत्ता दोनों चक्रीय है. That means you are in a cycle. This is going to be repeated again and again. Keep on continuously happening. The same events, the same kind of things are going to happen again and again. And in that cycle, there is no beginning, there is no end. That's why Anadi Nidhanam Brahma. So, when we will actually understand the concept of time and space, we will get the answer why Rājaśekhara is mentioning that we should keep Itihāsa under a Pāruṣeya structure. When some kind of text is narrating those events which are not going to happen or to be restricted into a single phase of time with a proper beginning or a proper end, they cannot be called as Pāruṣeya. That means created by a person. So, the text Ramayana, which is understood to be composed by whom? Valmiki. Ramacharitmanas by whom? Tulsidas. And then Mahabharat, Vedavyas. So, these kind of text or corpus, they are not restricted to the single cycle of the yugas. That means one cycle starts from the Satyuga, Treta, Dwapar and Kali. This is going to be repeated 71 times, then one Manvantar is going to be formed. And in that case, whatever corpus related with this kind of events is available to us cannot be restricted to the specified person, time, place or structure. It cannot belong to the authority. So, whatever we are having in the name of Valmiki, Tulsi or Vedavyas, they are the complementary posts, just like we have the post like dean, director, and they are not restricted to a single person. They keep on changing. So, persons can be changed, but the posts remain as it is. They are going to be as it is. So, this is the reason why he is mentioning that Itihāsa should be understood under the category of plus one what? Upa-vedas. It should be considered under as Apauruṣeya Śāstra, and it will be much more clear when we will discuss time and space. Then Alaṃkāra Śāstra is the science of figures of speech and he says his advice is like to keep this as seventh Vedāṅga, Alaṃkāra Śāstra. Why? What is the possible reason why he is suggesting so? Because all the knowledge corpus of the Vedic portion or Vedic literature is mystical. In one of my previous lectures, I told you mysticism and symbolism. What is mysticism and what is symbolism? Like when we are praying something, when we are praising someone like Varuna or Agni, what we are doing and what is symbolism? And in the same way, what is mysticism? In one of my lectures, I explained these things. So, in Vedic literature, symbolism is very high, and because of symbolism, mysticism is present. So, all the Vedic corpus including Upanishads, Aranyaka, Brahmanas, they all are having very high level of mysticism, and mysticism comes because of symbolism. That is why when you ever get time to read more about the dreams, what phenomena happens in the dreams, how to interpret a dream, then you will find that if you are seeing this kind of symbol in your dream, that suggests this kind of reality. possible reality. This is what? This is not the hard and fast explanation. This is symbolism. Each symbol can indicate some kind of happening or reality. So, this is symbolism, and in that way itself Vedic literature plus all the linked literature to the Vedic corpus is highly symbolic in understanding, and to understand that symbolism we need figures of speech. That means metaphor, simile, these are figures of speech. Alaṃkāra Śāstra, upama, रूपक, उत्प्रेक्षा, ये क्या है? अलंकार है. So, if you are not able to understand figures of speech, you won't be able to understand the symbolisms available in the Vedic corpus. That is why he is suggesting to keep Alaṃkāra Śāstra as the 7th Vedāṅga, 7th auxiliary sciences. Next is Ānvīkṣakī. Ānvīkṣakī is the science of investigation dominated with the logic. So, what other name we have for Ānvīkṣakī? That is Nāṭya. Nāṭya is the system of darshan which is dominant of logic. So, for the Nāṭya system itself we have another name that is known as Ānvīkṣakī. Next is Mimāmsā. Mimāmsā we have already understood. Mimāmsā deals with the interpretation of the texts, that is Vedas. It has two parts, Pūrva and Uttar. Pūrva means the first chapter, Uttar means the later one. So, first part and the second part, Pūrva and Uttar. Pūrva interprets the utterances and the statements of the Vedic literature or Vedas, and Uttar is deals with the Brahma Sutra, which is popularly understood as Vedānta Darshan. Vedānta Darshan is very popular right now also, a lot of scholars study them, and Vedānta Darshan is based on the Brahma Sutra. So, Brahma Sutra is the second part, that is Uttar Mimāmsā. So, Mimāmsā is science dealing with the analysis, investigation or interpretation of the Vedic statements. So, first part deals with that's why it is Pūrva. Second part deals with the mysticism available in that corpus, that's why it is Uttar Mimāmsā or Vedānta Darshan. Next is Gadya, Padya, prose. It is very easy. Gadya, Padya and Mishra, that means Gadya is prose, Padya is poetry, mixed means it contains both of them together. Śravya and Dṛśya. Śravya is visual like drama. When you are playing a drama, like in some of the clubs you are performing, you are trying to present a new Karnatak. So, that is a kind of Śravya, that is a kind of Dṛśya. Dṛśya contains both the things like visuals plus sounds. So, the audience are going to be enlightened or to perceive the knowledge to perceive the message which you are trying to convey to them through the actions also, through your actions also, through your speech also, through your rest of the angik and vachik abhinaya. Abhinaya means acting, and angik means from the body parts, bodily organs involved. Vachik means through the speech. So, in through both of them you can actually convey your message in the case of Dṛśya. But in the case of Śravya, you can only listen, just like when you listen to the RJs in Radio City or FM some kind, and they narrate a story of any kind of movie, or any kind of novel, and they are narrating, you are just listening, you are creating the visuals inside of your own consciousness, that is Śravya. So, Dṛśya is visual and Śravya is audible like poetry and story, etc. So, Dṛśya is like a drama and Śravya is like a poetry or story. Next is Sanskrit Prakrit, Pali and Apabhransh. Sanskrit is the purified one, while Prakrit means the natural one. Yes, Prakrit, the literal meaning of the Prakrit is natural. Prakritam, as it is, jaisa hai waisa hi present kar dena. So, you are not going to purify it, whatever is naturally available by birth, or you can say by your own abilities. You are trying to convey your feelings or emotions, or you are trying to express yourself in that particular way, that becomes the Prakrit. And all the modern Indian languages are Apabhransh of Sanskrit. They fall under this category, whose 90 to 95% of the words are from Sanskrit in two formats. Either they are Tatsam same as the one before. Like in Odia, we have so many of the words from the directly from the Sanskrit. Eki, Dvi, Ekavachan, Dvivachan. Those who are just coming from the home and are coming through the railway stations, they can easily understand. Eki, Dvi, Shunya. So, these are the words available in Sanskrit as it is. So, either in the form of tatsam without any modifications and or in the form of tadbhav, that means modified from the original one. So, tatsam and tadbhav, in these two formats we have already incorporated all the vocabulary from the Sanskrit, and that is why the question of relevance of the Sanskrit or the question of getting or being understood as a dead or a living language with the reference of the Sanskrit is itself a non-relevant question, right, because we are using the vocabulary in all our day to day behavior, it is already in usage. Next is the Puranic. Puranic means it is based on the characters which are taken from the Puranas, and Kalpanik are imaginative. So, we can create our corpus based on the source material coming from both of them. Then in Kala Ashrit, they are based on any of the 64 Kalas or 64 allied sciences. In Shastra Ashrit, they can be from any of the Shastras, very simple. Just like this time right now what is happening, so many movies are being created on the same kind of source material, Ramasetu and so many. I can take so many of the names which are taking the source material from our Puranas, Itihāsa, etc., right. So, this is something which can be created and that is under the second category, that is Kāvya as per Rājaśekhara. Then Mahakāvya has a popular hero, Loka-prasiddha Nayak. What is the difference one by one? Mahakāvya has a popular hero who is very, in Sanskrit we use the word Loka-prasiddha Nayak. So, popular hero in the Lok is the actual hero of the Mahakāvya, and the narrative of that Mahakāvya becomes very grand. That's why I am saying Ram ka character, Krishna ka character, they are always carrying a grand narrative with them, and the Nayak or the hero is a Loka Prasiddha. So, whatever creation, whatever composition is being created on that particular source material, that becomes that falls under the category of Mahakāvya. That is why Ramayana and Mahabharata are in turn a kind of Mahakāvya. Nāṭya is acted one. Nāṭya is acted one. Maybe a small, just like you are creating Ritvik Club in NIT, that they try to write it, they try to act it. So, Nāṭya is a kind of acted one, maybe that is small. Akhyayika is a very small narrative, very small narrative. What is the difference between the narration and a story? What is the difference between the narration and a story? Katha is a story and Akhyayika is a narrative. What can be possible difference? What can be possible difference between a story and a narrative? When we narrate something, that becomes a third person's point of view. Like suppose here you are doing something and I am witnessing that. So, when I will narrate that incident to my kids, that becomes a narrative, right? And story is I am writing that composition, I am creating that, I have a liberty to create that. So, narration is always a third person's point of view and story is first person's point of view. Understood? That is the difference. Kathanak is a dialogue based small narrative. Now, here both are mixing together, story plus narration. A kind of a story I can create with the reference of as first person's point of view, but in the form of dialogues between two or more than two persons. So, I will take few characters, I am going to start writing a kind of Kathanak. So, what I will do, I will select few characters, 4 to 5 characters I will select, then I will start writing them, writing my composition in the form of dialogues between all of them. So, that becomes Kathanak. Perhaps I have told this name, Mritchikatikam, Mudra Rakshasam. These are the kind of dialogue based narratives. So they become Kathanaka. जहाँ हम dialogue के आधार पर कोई चीज़ create कर रहे हैं वो कथानक हो जाती है. Last is style of dialogues. So you can see what is first we will understand what is dialogue and what is the word for the dialogue, that is Riti. In Sanskrit we use the word Riti for dialogues. And what is explanation, what is the derivational definition for Riti? Vachan Vinyas Kramah Ritihi. Vachan Vinyas. Vachan means statements. Vinyas means how to arrange. So arrangement. So arrangement of the statements or the sentences or the sequencing or an arrangement of the sentences is known as Riti. So basically as per the Riti also we have classified the Kavya. Vaidarbhi is the one name of Riti, Gaudi, Panchali and Lati. Now Vaidarbhi is the style of southern part. Then Gaudi is eastern places and Panchali northwest. Lati central part of India as per the time of Rājaśekhara. So in this image we can see what is the language survey which was done by Rājaśekhara at his own time. He is mentioning, and now you can see like in southern part Vaidarbhi, in the central part and either Gaudi northeastern and then Riti here one side Panchali. So in this image when you will see from in your own slides you will get Vaidarbhi to the southern part, Gaudi to the eastern places, then Panchali to the northwest like this one, Panchali to the northwest, Lati to the central part of India. So this was the language survey which was done by Rājaśekhara at his own time. So you can see that in our childhood also in Hindi, especially in north zone when we were taught in schools, we had this understanding that with few more steps when we proceed ahead in Bharat, we get a changed narration of or the version of language. हर एक कदम पर भाषा बदल जाती है, ऐसा बताया गया था. Now you can understand what they wanted to convey to us, that when we just step in our own land, then we get so many of diversities of the way of speaking, in the way of speaking. Even the Hindi is not the single language, it is a cluster of so many of the folks, so many, Awadhi, Braj and so many. So when we from one place to another place, immediately the way of speaking or expression changes. That is why a hard and fast structure was never imposed in our system for both of the phenomena, for communication within or among ourselves and for composition also. That is why we have so much of the diverse literature. Now in our first unit, lastly we have 3 points which are just the summary of our complete unit 1. The knowledge disciplines which are related with the discourse of language. At first there are 6 auxiliary sciences of the Vedas. I have already explained all of you. Siksha, Nirukta, Vyakaran and Chand. These are the 4 which are directly related with the study of the language. In चारों का सीधा संबंध है. That means from the Vedic literature itself we were focused on the understanding of the discourse about the language. So language study is not today's fashion, it is not today's stream of understanding. It has been already done so much before, which when we can even comprehend. So in the Vedas itself, from the Vedas itself the discourse starts and the discussion is done very elaborately in the 4 auxiliary sciences. Even in these 4 sciences, three, that is Siksha, Nirukta and Vyakaran. They are directly linked with the spoken language, and the Chand is related with the compositional language, though it is sometimes present in spoken language also. Why it's mentioned here, why this is mentioned, because they are the three sciences, that means Siksha, Nirukta, Vyakaran, they are dealing with the spoken language. They are telling us how to articulate different sounds, how to speak a particular sentence, etc., etc. But normally when we talk, we don't sing. गाना गा के तो हमेशा नहीं बात करते ना एक दूसरे से. That's why there is a mentioning that chand or meter is related with predominantly with the compositional language, because we want to remember that thing for a longer period of time. So when we recite the mantras of the Ved, we use the chand. When we recite them in the meter, then we easily remember them, and it gets easily remembered. That's why we can recollect it a lot of times in the future also. That's why it's mentioned even in the four, the three are directly linked with the spoken one, but one is maximally oriented towards the compositional one. And remember, compositional one doesn't strictly mean written one. No, I compose the things orally. You are listening them, and then you are getting very fond of it, you are happy with that, you want to keep it in your mind, you write it. That's the way of composition. So कोई composition लिख करके तैयार नहीं किया गया था. रामायण भी गाई जाती थी, रामचरितमानस भी गाई जाती है, ठीक है. लिखने वाले बाद में आते हैं जब उन्हें वो बहुत अच्छा लग गया. So this is the way of creation, this is the way how we composed our literature. Yask is known popularly for his Nirukta dictionary, because here Nirukta is dictionary and Yask is the first one who wrote the dictionary for the Vedic words, which is Nirvachan Shastra, how to relate the words of the Vedas with its meaning, that is Nirukta, words plus meaning. So Yask did this task first time, so he is popularly known for his Nirukta Shastra. But ऐसा नहीं है कि यही एक निरुक्त है, और भी लोगों ने काम किया. A lot of the corpus is not available with us because of so many negative things. So Yask is popularly known for his Nirukta Shastra. Then Panini is known for Ashtadhyayi, that is related with the Vyakaran. And Pingal is known popularly for his Chanda Shastra. Pingal is the younger brother of Panini. पाणिनि के छोटे भाई हैं पिंगल, और उनका छंद शास्त्र प्रसिद्ध है. तो आपको तीन लोगों के बारे में पता होना चाहिए. पाणिनि for the Vyakaran, grammar, Pingal for Chanda Shastra, and Yask for Nirukta Shastra. These are the three factual informations. Then lastly, we have to just recap what is the effect of orality on the nature of language, because we are belonging to a tradition which is dominant in oral dissemination of knowledge. So first is the orality. Due to the orality of language, first and foremost requirement in the study of language is the pronunciation. That's why in the beginning, in the childhood itself, what is the focus? क्या सिखाया जाता है हमें? How to use the word, how to pronounce this sound, E, U, Varnamala. And we are not taught that you just start writing how to write A. No. बच्चे को क्या सिखाना शुरू करते हैं? बोलो बेटा A. बोलना सिखाते हैं. We are not fond of making the child habitual with the writings. कि लिखो बेटा A. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं किया जाता. उसे बोलना सिखाते हैं. So that's why the first requirement is pronunciation. Because we are from the oral tradition of knowledge, the first focus, first emphasis was given on how to pronounce particular sound. Then the variation in the pronunciation, especially in such a long tradition of thousands of years, is unmeasurable thing. We cannot keep actually the variations in the spoken version. That's why what is happening? In Indian knowledge tradition, they put a lot of effort to preserve the variations of pronunciations, and in that series we currently have 21 branches available of the Rigveda itself, one Veda, Rigveda, 21 branches. प्रातिशाख्य ऑफ ईच ऑफ द ब्रांच, हर ब्रांच का प्रातिशाख्य है. 21 ब्रांच हैं तो 21 ब्रांचों का प्रातिशाख्य भी है. दैट मीन्स हाउ टू प्रोनाउंस पर्टिकुलर साउंड. देन फॉर एग्जाम्पल ऋक् प्रातिशाख्य, वाजस्नेयी प्रातिशाख्य, दीज आर द वेरिएशंस ऑफ द प्रातिशाख्यास ऑफ द सेम कॉर्पस. Pratishakyas belong to the preservation of the language of composition. In oral tradition, the four basic challenging tasks: creation, storage, dissemination and transmission. They were very challenging, and in this system deeper investigation about the language is available just because of this challenge. Just because this was very challenging to us, we had very deeply investigated about the language from that particular time. In the text of Panini and Patanjali, the term Sanskrit is not available. It's very clear with all the evidences we have. Patanjali says that I am talking about the Vedic and Laukic words which suggest that Sanskrit is the spoken as well as compositional language of that particular time. These are the summarized points which have come to us after understanding the material of the unit 1, right. So, this is the basic effect. In the later on in the unit 5, when we will summarize everything, then we will be having much more points to related with the discourse of knowledge. Lastly, as I told you that language is not the copyright material of human beings, even our universe, even the cosmos also has its own language. So, because in our course we are going to touch this concept at the highest most or the peak point of the course. So, here this is also presented for a kind of glimpse to you, for a hint. The study of language was a preliminary step in order to preserve and maintain the vast body of oral literature in our system, and therefore, in Indian mind, what is the habit, what is the obsession, you can say obsession. Indian mind is obsessed with the study of language, because it was reflected continuously on the nature and conception of language in relationship to the world it talks about. We not only understood language as a means of communication, जैसा आप लोगों ने क्वेश्चन पेपर में आंसर लिखते समय लिखा है, language was never became only means of communication. It was investigated much deeper. That's why we are going to get the second aspect of it. It's communion with oneself, self-talk, antah samvad, and we are going to touch that particular aspect in our course. All the granthas, the knowledge text, they were talking about what was around this world. केवल भाषा हमारी बोल चाल के काम आती है ऐसा नहीं है. It is related with the world outside or us and the environment that is surrounding us. So, we related the language with the environment in which we are existing. That's why language study is related with the existence of the cosmos also. This world is the universe or Jagat. Brahmand stands for this and the whole of the cosmos. These are two very important words. आगे चल के इनका बहुत detailed understanding आएगा. Brahmand, Jagat. So, these two words are used to relate how language is related with the existence itself. That's why भाषा हमारे अस्तित्व का संबंध रखती है. That's why I told you when we have to describe moon, we have to use the word moon. Without using the particular that word, we cannot describe the existence of the moon. So, there will be no moon if there is no one to describe moon as moon. So, how reality comes into existence just because of bhasha, that is the deeper understanding about the language. Brahmand literally means a universe which is shaped like an egg. That's why Brahm then and, two are the two words, Brahm then and. So, Brahm is a consciousness and and is elliptical shape, and that's why whenever we draw our solar system, we never draw a complete circle. It's elliptical. आप कभी भी draw करिए आप ऐसे ही draw करेंगे, आप कभी ऐसा नहीं draw करेंगे, perfect circle नहीं बनाएंगे. Why? Because we know that what is actually Brahmand. The word Brahmand suggests that it's an elliptical universe which is not very different from the modern conceptions. They thought about language because this language talked about the world around, and they wanted to see the relationship between the language and the world. This is our quest. This was our quest. That's why language was so much central to our research or curiosity. Indian knowledge systems talk about the language of the cosmos also, in the concept of Nād. When they touch the Nād Brahma, they discuss this concept elaborately. Nād Brahma is resonance. In your words, you cannot exactly equipose. By this time I am having is this understanding that you must be familiar. Whenever I use a word of English with reference of even Sanskrit word, it's not going to be exactly or equally superposed, but एकदम बराबर नहीं होगा. Resonance is a very normal phenomena. You are familiar with it. That's why I am using the word resonance here, to make you habit, or you can say to make you feel easily understandable in a state of understanding Nāda Brahma. The text Spand Karika is belonging to the Agama Śāstra. When we are going to enter into the next unit, we will discuss it, and that deals with the pulsating or vibrating universe, and Sangeet Shastra deals with the Nād in music. That's why those who are the practitioners of the classical music, especially in the classical music, when they practice the Sapta Swaras, they resonate within, they practice Nād Brahma, वो साधना करते हैं. That's why संगीत becomes a साधना. संगीत एक प्रकार की साधना हो जाती है, क्योंकि हम वहाँ नाद के साथ अपने को जोड़ लेते हैं. That is something Nāda Brahma. Vedas talk about this pulsation through mantras, and Vedic literature is giving us that kind of understanding through the mantras. When we recite the mantras also, then also we link our pind with the Brahmand. So, yat pinde tat Brahmande, this becomes a concept which is available to us in our understanding. So, pind and Brahmand gets related through the mantras also and through the practice of Sangeeta also, Nāda Brahma. What is the highest most understanding about this one? The highest pulsating sound of universe is designated as Om, which denotes the resonance of cosmos and indicates the balance among all the manifested entities. That's why I told you single sound Om can give you the language of the cosmos. Because of this only, there is language of silence also. That's why when a person is yogi or the person is seated in samadhi, the person may be silent from the outside, but it's not like the person is not having any language, or the bhasha is missing, or the person is not able to communicate. ऐसा नहीं है, उसका मानसिक संवाद संभव है. समाधिस्थ योगी के पास इतनी शक्ति होगी कि वो अपने आप को ब्रह्मांड की भाषा से जोड़ लेता है. That's why here it's mentioned in the silence also there is a language. Actually, when we make noise, we create an imbalance in the cosmos, and when we rest in the silence, we become able to listen to the balanced cosmos. So, our tendency of disturbing the cosmos is always giving us a false notion that we are progressing ahead. No, the more you are silent, the more you are introverted, the more you are powerful, because you are resonating within yourself with the cosmos. That's why silent persons or introvert persons are much more powerful than the extrovert persons. इसीलिए कभी ये ना सोचो कि हम एक्सट्रोवर्ट नहीं है तो हम अच्छे नहीं हैं. It's a misconception. Those who are introvert, they have an innate tendency to link themselves with the cosmic energy. The happiest and the realized person's vibrational energy resonates with the vibrational energy of the cosmos. So, in our complete course in the unit 5, we are going to completely understand how this is happening and how we can achieve that state. This is the target of the course. So, with this only we are going to completely end the unit 1. So, from the next class we will start unit 2. So, for this lecture this is sufficient. Thank you.